Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm just off of Reisterstown Road out in Pikesville, and I'm at the Pikesville Armory. It got its start just over 120 years ago for the Maryland National Guard, and today it's undergoing an enormous repurposing to be home spaces for the arts, for sports, for recreation, for veterans programs. The group that's heading it up is the Pikesville Armory Foundation, and I'm thrilled that David Ginsburg, the head of the foundation, is here to join me in just a minute. But before I turn it over to David, let me say a word about the Armory and really start with a word about the National Guard. Maryland's National Guard, like many National Guard units, traces its origins back to Revolutionary War days when we declared independence from Great Britain. The Continental Congress sent out a call for volunteer militias to join the effort. A number of rifle units from Maryland heeded the call and did join. Militias were critical in winning the Revolutionary War even after we formed a regular military. And in fact, when we went about forming the Constitution and then a government and passing laws in our new nation, one of the very first was the Militia Act of 1792, which basically conscripted able-bodied white men. Remember, this is way before the Civil War. So able-bodied white men between the ages of 18 and 45 had to serve in militias, overseen by the governors of each new state. They trained several times each year, and they were critical in our new nation, even as our regular military got going. In Baltimore, militias were absolutely critical in defending our city against the British in the War of 1812, the Battle of Baltimore. Militias from Maryland and then some from Pennsylvania coming down to help join that effort. But after the War of 1812, we entered into a pretty long period of peace up until the 1840s and really the Civil War, and militias sort of withered on the vine a little bit. In the 1840s, the state of New York, in an attempt to revive them, in part changed the name. They adopted a name from France, the equivalent in France, which was called the National Guard. By the 1880s, most states had National Guard units, and in 1903, a senator named Charles Dick got through legislation creating a federal National Guard system. There was federal funding for each of the state's National Guards. They were still under the control of the governors of each state, but they were also under the umbrella of the regular U.S. military. 1903, not coincidentally, was also the year that the Pikesville Armory was built. We in Maryland were right on par with the national government in expanding the National Guard system. The campus here is not just one building, the big main building, but also a officers club as well as stables. Back in 1903, the way you got your military or your artillery units to the field was being pulled by horses. Over the years, the Armory has been the home to a number of National Guard units, maybe most notably the 110th Field Artillery Battalion, which called this place home from 1915 to 2009, including in World War II, where it was part of the invasion of Normandy during the D-Day battle. Let me just pull from the historical record a few things. The Armory has been a home to the military, but also a community center for almost its entire time. And there are a few things that jumped out at us as we culled through the historical record. In 1907, so just after it was built, the Armory hosted vaudeville acts. It became a theater, at least for a time. In 1916, Troop A of the 110th returned here for Thanksgiving dinner. They had been gone for over 6 months, and according to the record, they ate 10 turkeys, 6 hams, gallons of oysters, and, quote, enough hominy, olives, pickles, milk, and coffee to sink a ship. In 1930s, the Armory, still with a dirt floor, hosted polo matches, including General George Patton, who occasionally came up from the Pentagon to participate. In 1954 through 56, the Baltimore Colts used this as a practice place, and in 1960, John F. Kennedy hosted a fundraising dinner here. Throughout the ages, it has played host to numerous events, anything from gems to classic cars, from vinyl records to horses, all sorts of shows held here. In 2016, the National Guard decommissioned this place, and in 2017, the planning began for what to do with this 14-acre campus with some fabulous historic buildings. But for that, I'm going to turn it over to David Ginsburg of the Pikesville Armory Foundation to talk a little bit about what's going on. David, we are all yours.
David Ginsburg, I'm the executive director for the Pikesville Armory Foundation, the nonprofit that now owns the Armory and is doing the transformative projects. So at the time that the Governor's Commission was formed, I became the chairman of all the veteran groups that continue to meet at the NCO Club. There's about 8 groups that have been meeting there for about 6 decades in the oldest building on the campus. So I joined the commission representing the veterans, and then we found there were 4 other groups that all had similar goals, which was how can we save the history, save the buildings, do transformative stuff in the Northwest so that people will want to live back in this area, and that's how the Pikesville Armory Foundation came into being. As a matter of fact, what you're looking at is the south side of the Armory. It used to be the main entrance with the 3 gorgeous windows, and that's actually the thing that inspired the symbol for the Pikesville Armory Foundation. You happen to be filming from the porch of the Merson building. That was the headquarters of the 110th from the 1950s onwards, but that was the stables going back to 1910 where the horses were kept. So everyone, including myself, believed that they used to play polo inside the Armory. The floor was sawdust until the 1960s, originally for the cavalry troop when this place was formed, then for the artillery unit that stayed all the way until the 21st century. But they would actually do horse drills and that sort of stuff inside the Armory. The back of the Armory, the 11 acres, the reason why this is a unique Armory with 14 acres is there was a polo field that took up every inch of the 11 acres, and the back was grass. It got broken up a couple times. At the end of World War I, there were actually German POWs that were farming there. And then in the 1940s, the garages that are there now, there's 30 large garages. They came in as the Army transformed from horse-pulled to truck-pulled. And that's where the artillery pieces, the trucks, and the Jeeps were kept from the 1940s onwards. So as you said, the NCO Club, the oldest building, 1880s. It turns out it was even 10 years older than we thought. That's currently under construction. We're very excited. That's going to open up in the March-April timeframe. That'll be the headquarters for the nonprofit, for the foundation on the 2nd floor. On the 1st floor, the 8 veteran groups will get to come home and keep meeting again, and it'll provide meeting space and small event space for the community. So the big building. So what we're going to do is between the 14 acres, we're going to try to solve all of the problems that the community identified during the Governor's Commission and during the 50 community meetings that we had after the Governor's Commission. So that's going to include public art. That's going to include a ADA friendly and ADA compliant 1-acre playground, 2 full-size soccer and lacrosse fields, a kilometer walking path that's going to wind around the property with gardens and trees. It's going to include indoor pickleball. It's going to include basketball. It's going to include a school program that's going to teach people restaurant management so that they can be hired at the end of the 4-year program into a fine restaurant or a fine hotel. Boys and Girls Club is going to be coming up and opening up a chapter in the Northwest. We're very excited about everything that's going to transform the entire Northwest corridor. Go to www.transformpikesvillearmory.org or transferpikesvillearmory.com. It'll show you what we're building. It'll show you how you can help, how you can contribute. If you want to volunteer for the multiple pre-activation events, we just came from hosting 4 jazz concerts and a taste of the Northwest, and it'll keep you up to date monthly on what's going on with the construction.